All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. We're happy to have you here to talk about powering up your productivity using Microsoft Teams. I just want to showcase right now, if you're unfamiliar with Microsoft Teams, here's some of the key functionality that you may want to take advantage of in this session. We'll be taking questions in the chat. You can see that in the little chat bubble on the right side here of the slide. And then you may also want to turn on your live captions just to make life a little bit easier if some people are better visual learners than audio learners. So that also might help you. My name is Sherry Reed. I'll be your presenter today. My colleague Minerva Padilla-Shea is also here supporting. She will be answering questions in the Q&A or in the chat section, and we'll be collaborating on some of the things we'll talk about today. Here's our agenda. We'll be talking about different ways to use Microsoft Teams, including collaboration, engaging meetings, and other apps that you can add to your Teams platform. But before we move into the demonstration area, I just wanted to talk briefly about Teams and kind of how it fits within the organization of the Microsoft 365 platform. So as you can see, Teams is kind of built on SharePoint and OneDrive. It's an evolution of those tools, but it also integrates with Outlook and with lots of other applications. And that's the advantage Teams has over other potential competitors, is all these products work together seamlessly. And that's what makes it so much more easier to work, because they're all connected. And you can see that you have your files, you have your sharing, you have collaboration and co-authoring. All these things make it easier for you to work in the Microsoft environment. So also wanted to identify or help you understand where Teams fits within the 365 applications and kind of why you want to use this application versus other applications. We're going to have the file available to share with you, so you don't have to worry about taking notes right now, but I just wanted to highlight that Teams is used for collaboration, for meetings and chat, and it has a little bit more of an urgency to it, I would say, versus Outlook in terms of response times, similar to SMS chat versus your personal email, right? It just it gets a little more attention. It has a speedier pace. It's frequent, it's dynamic. You can use it to get a quick question answered, or you can have an entire conversation. It's very versatile. So we're going to move on to a demo environment. I want to introduce to you a new learning site. It's called Learning Pathways, and it is available within the North Carolina environment. And I'm going to show it to you right now. I need to share a different screen here real quick, and then we'll get started. So this is the Learning Pathways site, and we'll put a link to this in the chat as well. But it's available to folks in the North Carolina environment. And you can see here, there's lots of different types of training that are available here. There's a training events calendar. You can ask questions and get help. And if you scroll down, you can also see down here is some GCC specific training videos that you might find really useful. I did want to explain what GCC is. That's the government cloud, and that's the space within the Microsoft organization that has the upper advanced level security versus what we call commercial, which is kind of everyone else. So the government cloud has some specific requirements and limitations because it's highly secure. And so you'll find that there's once in a while you'll see, some new feature about Microsoft Teams out in the news or in the world, and it's not in your GCC environment. And that's just because we have a little bit of a delay in getting new features into GCC because it takes a little bit longer to develop them in the secure environment. So it is helpful to see the GCC specific training videos, especially related to teams, because the development happens so quickly in that space. So again, we'll post the link in the chat, but this is the new Learning Pathways application that you'll be able to access through North Carolina DIT. All right, so now we're going to move over to the demo environment. So I do want to mention that because it's a demo environment, it's not going to be exactly what you might see in your North Carolina environment. It's going to have a lot more versatility because everything is enabled here. Even though it is GCC, you'll see a lot more apps and things that North Carolina may not have enabled at this time, but is something that could be considered in the future. So I'm doing this demo on the web. You have several options when accessing your Microsoft products. You can go to office.com, which is where I am here, or you can access it from your desktop client, which would be down at the bottom of your screen, and you can see that yourself on your own desktop. So here we are at office.com. If I go to Teams, it's going to take me to my Teams environment. And here you can see down the left rail is a whole bunch of options that I have here available to me. And we're just going to start in the chat section just to get you familiar with this. And if you're a regular user of Teams, this is hopefully going to be very familiar because this is where most of a lot of the action happens in the Teams environment. So as you can see, down the left-hand column here is all the people that I've chat with in this demo environment. And there's two different sections. So one is the pin section and one is the recent section. The recent section is just chronologically in order people I've had conversations with or meetings I've attended with an associated chat conversation. And then the pin section is those that I have decided to prioritize. This one at the top would have your name, and that's your own kind of personal chat space. That's always going to be up there. But these others I have selected to put there by clicking on this little ellipsis in the individual chat here and choosing the button that says pin. So if you see I have this Contoso finance meeting, I'm going to pin it and it pops up to the pin section. And here I can move it around. Maybe this is really important to me and I want to, have it very visible in case there's a conversation happening. And so that's what I can do to make that have more visibility on my screen, especially if I'm busy. So looking here, if you click on the picture of the person that you're interacting with, it's nice to see that there's a lot of information here. You can send them a quick message. You can call them. You can pull up their email or their phone number really quickly. So it just gives you a quick bit of information about the person you're chatting with. And then if you move over to the ellipsis and you click the three dots, you can see you have additional options. Besides the pin and unpin that I already talked about, you can mark these items as unread. So maybe somebody sends you a message and you need to get back to it later and you don't want to forget about it. You can mark it as unread so that it's highlighted and it's available for you to come back to with that visual cue. You can also mute your messages. So for example, if there's a meeting that you are unable to attend and there's a lot of conversation happening about it, they can be distracting. So if you mute those messages, you get this little the bell alert message shows up here, and that shows that you're not going to get messaging right now for that meeting. You can always go back to it later. You can change it if you'd like. And then Teams wants us to show that you can also delete chat. So that only applies to individual chats. So if I decided to delete the chat I have with Johanna, I can do that. But I'd like to point out that it doesn't delete anything on her end. She can still see our own chat. It just deletes it from my space here in my own Teams environment. The last thing that I think is pretty handy here is you can select notify when available. So as you can see, Johanna is offline right now, and that I could see by this little indicator, and it pops up. That explains that she's offline. If I want to know when Johanna comes into work, maybe I start early and she comes in later in the day. If I want to notify when available, I just click that, and it shows that I have my notifications on for Johanna, and I'll be notified. I'll just get a little activity pop-up bubble that says Johanna is now available. It means her status has turned to green. Going back up to the top, I just want to show that your personal chat stream can be really helpful. I use it to send myself messages or to save things that I reference really often. You can put files here. So it's a nice little personal workspace that no one else has access to, that is good for quick reference of things that that I personally reference a lot. All right, let's go over to the settings, which is over here. I see my visual cue of my image here, and then I click the three dots and I get to settings. So this is where you can personalize your team's experience. I have it on the default messaging, but you can see if I turn it to dark, it changes kind of a little easier on the eye, or you could go with high contrast. That one's, might help some people with, a visual impairment, for example. You could also change your density of your chat. You can make it kind of spread out, or you can make it tight using the compact setting. If you want to get more on your screen, that's an option for you as well. You can change your language settings here. You can add delegates. So if you have like an assistant that supports you, you can add them here, and that gives them access to managing and responding to your messaging. And then one other thing I think is really, really valuable is to help you understand notifications. So if you happen to be new to Teams, you might feel a little bit overwhelmed until you kind of get used to all the notifications, the activities that are popping up, and conversations that might be happening. You can manage all of this yourself by walking through the options here. And you can go all or nothing. You can do something in between. There's customizations here for all the different ways of getting your notifications. So I think that's really helpful. It helps you control your environment. It lets you manage, the best way of working for yourself. I want to highlight as well, and I have this in the PowerPoint that you could see later, is managing notifications on your mobile phone is also something that you should take advantage of. Definitely a top Teams tip is going to Teams on your phone, if you have that, and managing the notifications so that you don't get notifications on your phone when you're working on your desktop, because that would be a duplicate message, right? So I think that's really helpful to turn those off when you're active on your PC or your desktop. You don't want to get those same messages on your phone. So I think that kind of minimizes the noise that you'll get when you control your messages in that way. A couple other things to highlight. There's accessibility. You can turn on captions in your meetings. You can turn off animations if you want a better control of that. And if you're, have a sign language need in your organization, you can also add visual sign language personnel that can show up on your screen. So that's also really helpful. And then here's a few other settings that you can control. For example, if you want to open your files that are shared within Teams, if you want to open them in Teams, or maybe you want to open them in a browser, or I think that's the only option you have. And then we don't have calling enabled in North Carolina yet, but maybe sometime in the future we'll be able to share that information. All right, Minerva, are there any questions in the chat at this time?
We did have some questions around just like being able to mute and also being able to save messages. So
Yes.
just really quick, I was going to have you hover over one of your messages on the left-hand side, on those three dots, the ellipses. So when you hover
Yes.
over that, that's where you're able to mute any of the chats. So if you're in a meeting, you can mute those chats so you don't see the notifications coming through. And then if you can go into one of the chats also real quick, Sherry, and hover over a message. So when you hover over that message, go to the three dots, and then you're going to have your save this message. So when you hit save this message, that message will be saved at the top right in your profile under saved message. So once you click on that, all of the messages you've saved is going to be there for you.
So yeah, in this example, Deborah gets kudos, or you're sending kudos for a person, and maybe that's something they want to save for their annual review, right? So you definitely want to keep track of that. So then you put that in your saved messages, and here you can see there's just a couple of items that have been saved in the past, and it's easy to access here just by going up and clicking on your picture.
Yes, and I do see that there is one question. I'll just talk about this real quick out loud.
Yeah.
If we receive work messages on your personal mobile phones, are your phones subject to the FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act? So if you're utilizing your Teams app, that will be considered inside of that, not your personal text messages. Anything with your Microsoft 365.
Right, that's all subject to discovery.
Yes.
Right, gotcha. All right. Hey, I did want to, while we're up here in the top right corner, I wanted to show a little bit more about your profile. So here it shows that I'm in a meeting right now. It also shows other statuses that I could switch to should I decide I want to do that. I can also set a duration. So maybe I'm, kind of heads down working on a report and I want to show that I'm busy or I do not disturb. I can just set it for an hour, 2 hours, and kind of forget about it. And then you can see that it says I'm set to do not disturb. I'll only get urgent notifications from priority contacts. And so that's one thing you can do. And then you could also set a status message, right? So this is kind of your out of office, if you like, and it's completely controllable again by custom hours this week. They give you some of the more common ones really easily to access. And you can also control your out of office here too, that connects to Outlook. Let's see, I think there was one other thing I wanted to mention. Oh, I did want to. I was going to show, priority access. Yeah, here it is. So, for example, if I want to manage priority access, here I have Nestor listed as one of my priorities. I can also add someone else I work closely with, or maybe my manager, Joni, right? So when I'm on Do Not Disturb, I will still get messages from these priority people. But otherwise, I won't be disturbed by the notification. So I think that's also something to take advantage of in terms of managing your time and your workspace effectively. All right, so I just want to highlight some other functionality down here when I'm setting up, creating a message. There's a lot of controls here that make it easier to have a very clear message. And you can just type out a message if you want here, but it will have no formatting or any, kind of interest. But if I click down here on the format button, I suddenly get this whole variety of formatting options that are really handy to make my message stand out. So just like in, all the other Microsoft tools, you can highlight. My mouse would work. You can highlight, you can bold, you can, change your colors or backgrounds. But then also you can insert a link, for example. You can do a quote, right? So if you want to reference, hey, somebody said something, you can use this quotes button and it helps you to kind of make that stand out from the rest of your text. And then of course you have your standard indentation or bulleting or numbers. And then you can also insert a table here. So I can select, that I want to insert a table and kind of get started building something out here that I want to share with my colleague, Deborah. So I think those are all really useful ways of making your message really engaging and helping to communicate the clarity of that. Also, in your messaging, you can set delivery options. This allows you to indicate important or urgent messages, although that should be used very sparingly. But in an emergency, that can be really beneficial. You can attach files here. You can use emojis. North Carolina does not have GIFs enabled at the moment, but I believe you also have stickers. And then I think that's about it at the moment. There may be some applications that you could also use. Those will be uniquely enabled in your environment. So then at the top of the chat window here, I'd like to show that there are other ways you can keep your content engaging. So you can share files. In this situation, there aren't any files shared. I think the other one might have something. So here we are. These are files that have been shared between myself and my colleague. This is a really easy way to access them here. You could also add additional files, create a whiteboard, add a website, all these things that make it easier for your conversation to continue, to be smooth and seamless. It's just a really great way to keep the conversation going. All right, let's see, where are we at here? I think we're going to move on from chat to Teams, unless there's anything you'd like to mention, Minerva?
No, I think we're good right now. I know there is a little bit coming on our meeting options that you'll be showing us, so we can go back then. I think we're good for now.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're moving into the Teams area, and this is where you have groups organized together to try to focus on a specific subject or effort, right? So chat is intended to be more of casual conversation. And in a chat, you can have multiple people in a chat, or one-on-one, or you see your meetings as well. But in a team, it's more of an organized group that potentially would have conversations around a specific subject. And so I'm going to look at the deployment team here, and I'm going to show you each team will start out with a general channel, right? And every team will have that, and you can't do anything, you can't change that or remove that. That's a standard for every team, so you can see it on every test team here. And so then you have your conversation, right? It starts out here when the team is new. It gives you the option of adding more people or more channels. That's usually reserved for the owners. And then you can see that the person who created the team has also set up this kind of the structure of the team at the top. They added new tabs and an Excel workbook, it looks like. So you can see that again at the top. This is the website that they added, which is an intranet site. And then here they have added a spreadsheet, right? They don't have any detail here, but it's something that you can reference quickly and easily. It's a good place to have that for a team that's working on a specific project. Using this little plus button at the top, you can add additional applications. In North Carolina, you should have kind of the standard applications available, which are the Microsoft products. I do believe they also have Adobe and DocuSign enabled. So if you use those tools, that's definitely something you can take a look at. But these are kind of all, very typical standard applications, nothing really unique or external, except for that Adobe. So you can add those to the top, and that makes it a great way to quick reference. Let's see, I want to just show a couple of those tools here. So we have the planner board, which by using the plus button, we added a planner board for this team. And a planner board is a tool within itself, right? This is a well put together planner board, and it includes the activities for, it looks like a meetings and conferencing event, right? So you can see the header at the top of planner for each of these columns is unique, and it's editable, right? So I can change this if I want to whatever is relevant to the project I'm working on. So these are called cards. And if I click on this card, I can open it up and see that there is a whole lot of information to share behind this one little card, right? I can assign people, right? So I can make sure that the right people get notified that I'm assigning them this project. I can use a tag, so I can create dozens of different categories and tags, and this allows me to filter when I'm looking at this board in a different way. I can highlight kind of the areas maybe that we'll be working with. The bucket is the vertical column. So this one is in the setup project, but I can select any or others. I can add new ones as well. You can show the progress, you can show the priority. Then you can have, starting and end dates. And as I scroll down, you can see there's notes here. There's a checklist that I can mark through, attachments. All these things are hidden kind of behind this one card, right? So it captures a lot of information, and it makes it really easy to kind of continue your conversation. If you use comments here, you can put your updates on your project activities, and it just makes it a really nice functional way to collaborate on a project. And then as you can see, these cards are very flexible, right? So I can move them around, I can put them in different places, which is nice. And then right now, this view, what I'm looking at is called a board, but I can see it in different ways too. I can see it as a list. I can see it as a chart. Which is great for metrics also. You can identify, where your projects are at, how many are late, how many haven't started. So, and then the last one is a schedule, which I don't think anything is on the current month here, but this just allows you to have a lot of control about the view of your board, and is a great way to collaborate on big projects with a lot of information, but in a visual way that helps you to connect with your audience. Any questions so far, Minerva?
I don't think there's anything besides what I'm answering right now. So I think we are good. Thank you.
Okay, very good. All right, I'm going to shift over to another Microsoft tool that is included in your environment. It's called the whiteboard. And whiteboard is just a flexible way to gather information, to talk about unique subjects. You can brainstorm. It's a very free flowing space. You can add images, shapes. You can do reactions here, right? I can put different indicators. Maybe I want to mark a checkbox here. I can do that. I can fix that. I could also use the templates, which is what I'm showing here, and I have it's very flexible space. So this is a brainstorm template, but if you see here, there's a ton of different ones that you can use. You could use a learning template, and you can get a whole new kind of way of thinking. I can just move this around in this flexible space. I can zoom it in to, look closely. It's zoomed out pretty far right now. And it just allows me to, I can set this up and talk to my colleagues about this when I'm in this channel. It's just a great way to communicate and flexibly collaborate. So tons of different options if you look through the templates for the whiteboard as well. And then I think I mentioned earlier within the chat, you can also pin up a file. So this is an Excel file that's pinned to the top of this chat regarding meeting and conferencing. And again, you just use that plus button at the top of your channel to manage that. So let's go back over to this deployment team, and I'm going to just take a look at some of the things that you can take advantage of controlling within your meetings and conferencing channel, for example. So there you can notify, or you can manage your channel notifications. So typically I would recommend that, if you're in a team that has a variety of different channels, that you turn the activity on for the channels that are a priority for you. So that probably isn't every single channel, but there's going to be some that are important that you want to be notified about. So in that case, you would, indicate that you want to be notified of all activity, and that changes your channel notifications. You can also pin channels similar to how you pin them in the chat area. You can pin a channel and it pops up to the top. So you can see this is the channel I was in, the meetings and conferencing deployment team, and I've pinned it. I can also unpin it, and it goes right back down to where it was. So it, again, makes it easy for you to focus on what you're working on, and eliminate some of the distractions if that's what works for you. You can share a channel. You can edit a channel depending on your ownership credentials. You may not have access to all of these. Owners have a lot more privileges when it comes to managing a team. And then if you want to look to see who's in the team, you just go to the ellipsis at the header of the team, and you can click on Manage Team. In this team, for example, there's actually only one member, and then there's an owner. But you can add members here if you're a member or if you're an owner, but you need the owner's permission to get a person added to your team. So if you're a member and you request that, that request will go to the owner, and they will have to approve that before your new person can be added to a team. And speaking of teams, one thing I wanted to mention is North Carolina has unique setup policies for creating a new team. So every organization within the North Carolina will have different policies for setting up their teams. And so you need to talk to the leadership in your organization to make sure that you have that set up correctly. All right. So again, if you're in the team, you can see that this is where the pending request would come. If you were a team member and you wanted to add someone, the team owner would get a notification, but then they also would see this here. You can see the channels, how they're being managed, who sees them, the level of activity. You can control some of the settings, like you could put a picture that represents your team. You can control some of the member permissions, again, if you are the team owner. And one other nice function that could be useful, especially in a larger team, is you can create a tag. So, maybe it's a finance team, but you have 3 people that manage accounting, for example. You can create a tag just for those people that says, they're the accounting team. And then that way, when you're trying to message them directly within the team, you can tag the accounting team versus typing out each of their names. It could be a long list or just a couple, but it just makes it a little cleaner when you're managing your tags. And you can see in this, for example, they have a tag that's deployment managers, and there's only one member at the time, but you can always add more to that as well. All right, so let's see here. One thing I didn't mention, well, I just mentioned it, but I didn't show you, was the at mention. So if I wanted to let someone know that they should look at this, for example, then I'm going to tag them. And if I use the at symbol, just like you would in lots of other social media outlets, just the at symbol will pop up your options here. You may not have all of these options, but you'll definitely have, be able to find the name of the people on your team, or the people who are in a tag, which is what I just mentioned, and that would be potentially deployment managers. So I send a message to them. You can see the highlight of the deployment manager, and I could also see who's in that group. You know, if it was a bunch more people, they would all show up down there. Down here again, you can see that we have the same type of editing options that are available in the chat. If you click on the pencil with the letter A, you can enable all of those things very similarly to what you do in your chat section. So let's see here. I think we've covered most of that. I did want to mention before, so you can create a new conversation down here, or you can reply to an existing conversation. So if there's a conversation already going on, you should continue to keep that conversation together by using the reply button. But if you want to start a new subject, then you go down to the new conversation button and you create that new subject matter unique and separate from any existing conversation. So you can see that there could be a variety of replies in a single conversation that are all related to a certain topic. But if you want to do something different, start a new conversation, you just do that down at the bottom here. I do want to make note, though, Microsoft is changing this up a bit, and I think in the next couple of weeks, you're going to see that the conversation window that you see at the bottom down here is going to be moved to the top. So we found that that's a little bit more functional and makes it a little bit easier to work. And so I think that change is coming very soon to the government space. Minerva, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do have two things. So first one is Laura asked a question. If I am on multiple teams, is there a way to see everything I'm tagged in on one page? So this sort of brings up like a great best practice of when we're communicating through our channels, or even just, you know, a one-to-one or one-to-many. What Sherry just showed us, that @mention, if you @mention a person or @mention a tag, you're able to see that indicator that you are being called out in a particular message. So exactly. So right there on the left-hand side of the navigation bar is your activity. So everything that's coming through will be there. Anything that you have been called out on will show that @mention so that you know that you were. But everything, again, that's brand new, either to one of your team's channels or to your chat, all of that information is going to be in your activity bar. But again, best practice is to always do @mentions if you're wanting to call a particular person or a group out. That will definitely help know that individual, know that that's important.
And if you're looking at the activity feed, it's nice that you can use the toggle to mark unread. And sometimes it can get overwhelming, right? Maybe you haven't been able to read all of these, and in the future you'll be able to mark all of them as read. So if you know, sometimes that gives people anxiety when they have so much, so much activity. You can adjust those. You can also filter up here at the top, and you can search for @mentions. So I don't think we have any in this demonstration, but there are, other things that you can highlight that you'll see in your own space there.
Yes. And then somebody did want to see you add the whiteboard again.
Okay, I can do that. Let's shift gears here. And so you can see, if you go to the top here, you click on that little plus button, and then you just select whiteboard, and it'll sometimes takes a moment to add it to the top. And you just put a name on there. You have the option of sharing that with your channel members or not. And then as you save it, it creates it at the top and gives you kind of your fresh, clean palette of a new whiteboard. And then you can also, you can expand this out. You can open it in a desktop. You can rename it, or you can take it out if you're done with it. So those are all controls that you have right here within your key. All right, so we move on to the calendar.
Sounds good.
Okay. So next up, we're in the calendar here. So this is essentially your Outlook calendar pulled into Teams. And this is a place where you can start a new meeting, you can join a meeting. There's a lot of flexibility here. So as you can see, I have set up a test meeting here, and because we're within the hour of this meeting, it gives me a really easy button that I can join it here. So we'll go to that in a second, but I just want to show there's other functionality here, and you can just use your drop down to set up, schedule a meeting or a live event or a webinar. And so here's what it looks like when you set up a new meeting. And again, it's very similar to the fields that you would use in Outlook. And you just add your title, add your attendees. You can, add optional attendees as well. Then you can use the scheduling assistant to check their availability, right? So that's something that is very functional in Outlook as well. And we'll just select a date and time of the meeting, get that all set up. And then you can control, if you're going to have a reoccurring meeting, you can manage it there. You can add it to a channel to have a channel meeting if you'd like to do that. You can add a location, and then you can, put any further information about your meeting here. I'm going to go over to my test meeting that I'm in right here to open that up because there's a little bit more I wanted to show. I've set this up a little bit earlier just to show again some of the functionality that you can do when you set up a meeting. Up at the top, you can control how the meeting is displayed on your calendar and the people you invite, right? So if you want to make sure that their calendar is blocked and they can attend, you certainly would mark it busy. You can copy a link to the meeting if you want to get to it quickly. You can label it, and you can control all these labels. You can control your response options and allow people to share the meeting with others, or you can disable that completely. So you don't want any people in this meeting that you didn't invite, then you can turn that off. But then we're going to go over to meeting options, and I have that open here. So this is where you can control more about your meeting. You may not need to do this for kind of everyday type meetings, but if you're having a larger event or, you want a little bit more controls, this is where you would do that in your meeting options. So a lobby is kind of a waiting space that you can set up depending on who you want to control that to. But for example, you could set it up so people who are outside of your organization will wait in the lobby until you're ready to start the meeting, right? So there are occasions when people come to meetings far in advance. And if you want to control that and, have maybe some time to talk to your internal colleagues first, then you would turn on the lobby so that they can access that and wait in the lobby until you allow them into the meeting. Let's see, there's a few other controls here. You can add organizers and co-organizers for your meeting that allows them to control this meeting options page. You can limit who can present if you want, if they're showing a PowerPoint, you can put controls on that. So you don't allow everyone to present if you feel like that's something that you want to control. Then you can also turn off the microphone and the camera to make sure that you don't have interruptions during your meeting. So there's a whole bunch of other options that you can control, and I just wanted to show you that. So we're going to go back to the meeting. Let's discard that. And I'm going to join this meeting really quick. I know we only have a few minutes left together, so I just want to show you a few other things within a meeting. Before I join it, I'd like to note that you can set up a meeting in advance. You can chat with your participants in advance, so you can perhaps send a file So I clicked on this, it created this chat window, and I can ask them to review this file before the meeting. You could also, this is a place where people could say, hey, I'm running late to a meeting. So here's where I would upload a file just to make it easy and send this on to the folks who are attending the meeting. But I'll go back. Oh, actually, I can join right up here. So I'm going to join this meeting. And oh, here's me. Hi. And I'm going to join. And you'll see that I'm in the meeting, and we're just going to kind of go through the meeting controls as well, because that's something that could be really helpful to you when you are owning a meeting. So we have the chat section. Hopefully you're experienced in that. The same similar level of controls down at the bottom as we have in our chat in our Teams. Oh, look, my colleague Minerva is waiting in the lobby. So if I click on the people button, I can see, I get the pop-up message, but I also can see that there's someone waiting in the lobby. So this allows me the space again to maybe talk with my colleagues, prepare a few minutes before the meeting starts without being concerned that, my customer, for example, would overhear any of our conversation. So I have that control in place, allowing Minerva now to join the meeting. And here she is. So now the two of us are in the meeting together, and you can see right here who's in the meeting. You could also see there's a couple other folks invited to the meeting. And depending on your culture, it's nice to see who's invited, but if you think someone is attending and maybe they lost track of time and forgot, you can also just click request to join, and this will dial them directly, and it'll ring just like a phone would ring to their desktop, and they can answer if they're available, or they can deny your call just like you could anywhere else. So it looks like Minerva has her hand raised. So that's the next section we're going to talk about. Real quick, it shows that you can raise your hand here. You can lower your hand here. You can see mine and Minerva's. And I'm not seeing it here, but on your client application, you should see if you have multiple people with their hands raised, you can see that they're numbered with first, second, third, and depending on the order that they raise their hand. Next up, you can see reactions. So you can give a thumbs up or clap your hands for folks. You could also change your view. So if you have lots of people in your meeting, you can look at the together mode. You can move the gallery to the top so that your eyes are looking up instead of down. Minerva, do you have a question?
Not right now. I'm good.
Okay. So I can also lower her hand for her. There you go. Okay, I just have a couple more items real quick, and then we'll wrap this up. Before the meeting, I set up a poll, and I just click the poll button, and I can launch this poll out to you. This is a way to kind of make your meeting a little more interactive, and everyone can answer how they're feeling, about their level of skill with Microsoft Teams. And then I can also view the results depending on who answers the poll. So that makes it pretty easy as well. You can add apps. You can control your meeting settings here, again, with your device settings, which hopefully you're familiar with in just joining a typical meeting, but you can control this here. Then you control your camera, your microphone, and your sharing window. I think this is probably the last thing that I'll have time to go over today because we do have limited time, but when you're sharing content, there's a lot of options for you. You can share a specific window or tab. You can share a whiteboard. You can use PowerPoint Live, which I will show you right here. And this is going to be, you're going to see the presenter's view. So this is what you see as a presenter, where everyone else sees what's in the red box. You can have a lot more controls. You can use your laser pointer here. You can, draw on your screen if you'd like. And then you can see the slides that are up ahead of you, right, which is nice. You can skip ahead if you want to, move forward more quickly. You can also control the view. So right now, this is set up so that you can only see what the presenter is seeing. But if I wanted to turn that off, I could allow people to move forward and, quickly go through the slides. Maybe they can't attend the whole meeting and they want to make sure that they get all the content. So this is the presenter view in PowerPoint Live, and I think it's a really great way to share. So I just want to make sure you were aware that that is possible. I'm going to stop presenting here. And the last thing I'll show is how to leave a meeting or how to close out a meeting. So if you're just an attendee, you'll have, leaving a meeting is the way to go. But if there's still people in the meeting that are continuing their conversation, you just want to leave. But if you want to close the entire meeting, then you click the end meeting and you'll have that meeting all wrapped up. All right, so Minerva, are there any other questions? I know we kind of went through a lot quickly, and I'm really happy that y'all joined us today. We can continue to answer questions in the chat.
There was a lot of great questions that were coming through this entire time. Sherry did such a great job on this demo, and just kudos to everyone on this call participating. I did try to put some little snippets of breakout room and what Sherry was showing about sharing your screen and sound and the content. So hopefully that will help a little bit. That's there for you. And I think just the last thing, Sherry, if you want to just show everyone the help icon, because I know we're probably not going to be able to get to all the questions, but it's there. And then also you can reach out to us if there is an additional.
Yeah, so the help icon is down in the left-hand corner. And then, like I said, the Learning Pathways is going to be a new tool accessible to folks in the North Carolina tenant. We'll be able to add that Learning Pathways application here on the left rail, hopefully in the next maybe week or so. That would be, we'll be sharing information about that. But we just want to really thank you for your attendance. Hope you learned something new today, and appreciate you joining us. And we'll try to answer the questions in the chat. So thank you very much.